Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, Carbon's DIY Garage. Today we're looking at TDSR's rear end. And that's because we are continuing on a project that I started with replacing the rear track bar. And I'll put a link somewhere around here to that video. But the project here is eventually to replace the shocks and springs, the 2.5-inch lift that came with this Jeep. It sounds really straightforward to do, but everything you have to take off to do that, track bar kind of, but then also sway bar links and things like that, all that is rusted. And so instead of doing it all at once on one big frustrating day, I'm just doing it part by part. So today I'm going to replace, I'm actually gonna go ahead and replace the rear sway bar links and also the bushings on the rear sway bar. All that stuff is old and tired, and it's pretty inexpensive. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get that taken care of. So when it comes time to replacing shocks and springs, I know the sway bar links will come off really easily. Like I said, we're just doing it step by step. So if you're interested, and hopefully some interesting tips will come out of this, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and then like I said, we'll be progressing through this and eventually get TDSR in a good shape of its suspension. And anyway, yeah, let's get started. So let's go ahead and just start with where is all of this stuff located and why do we care? So this is, there you go, the rear differential, the pumpkin, and then to the side of it, on the axle, this is the retainer for the sway bar, and there's a bushing inside of here that allows the sway bar to rotate. And then right here by the control arm is the bottom of the sway bar link. And then up here at the top, you can kind of see it there in the shadow, is the top of the sway bar link. That one's got a flag nut, so if it's not all rusted to pieces, you don't even need to stick a wrench back behind there, and it should all come apart pretty easily. But this is TDSR, so I'm sure it's rusted on pretty good, and we'll do some PB Blaster to see if we can get these apart, and then heat if the PB Blaster doesn't do the trick. So as a first step, I went and just tried to break the torque on all of the bolts here on the driver's side, just to see if I could get them loose and see how rough this was going to be. Thankfully, all of them actually broke loose pretty easily, so I'll be able to get this apart pretty readily. These are both 15mm sockets that you need, and there are nuts on the backside. On the sway bar link on the lower end, the nut is a 15mm socket, and on the bolt head back here, it's 18mm socket. And then here at the top, again, is that 18mm socket that you need to get this all apart. So I'm gonna go ahead and take these apart and go from there. So with the passenger side, the muffler is in the way just a little bit to get access to the top of the sway bar link, but otherwise it looks pretty much exactly the same as the driver's side. So we'll go ahead and break the torque and take it apart. I didn't follow my own advice and it screwed me. So listen to yourself, I guess. The axle side of where these retainers mount, these nuts are, I guess, tack welded to the backside of the bracket, which is great. But if you over torque it because it's all rusted and you don't do something like put some heat on it first to get it to release because you think you can just muscle through it, the tack is going to come loose and this nut is just going to spin in the back. And I didn't think I'd be able to get a wrench on it. I tried a bunch of things. I don't know why I didn't think first, let's just see if I can put a box wrench on it. And it turns out you can indeed get an 18mm box wrench. You can get the box on this nut in the back and then put some heat or something on there to loosen things up, and I got the bolt out. But now I'm gonna have to, obviously I'm not gonna try to tack it onto the back of the bracket. So I'm gonna have to use that 2-wrench method to put it back in. It probably set me back a good 30-45 minutes trying to mess with it. I wish I would have just listened. So don't over muscle it. Come up with a different way, because if you're not gonna snap a bolt, you're going to break a weld or something. So it's just not worth it. Take your time, be patient. Don't try to be Superman. At least that's what I keep learning. All right, now that I've got everything out of the vehicle, let's just take a look at the hardware. First, this is the rear sway bar link. It doesn't look too terrible. The bushings look okay, but new ones are really inexpensive. This is a brand new Detroit axle stock-like sway bar link. I'll put a link in the description for these. They're really inexpensive, so may as well just replace them with new ones. The sway bar bushings, this one is the old one, obviously. It's obviously seen some wear and tear. It's not crumbling, but you may as well replace those too. It's pretty hard and just old. So these are Moog bushings. I'll put a link in the description for those as well. A little bit of grease on the sway bar, and that'll slide right over. The retainer will go right on top of that. I was originally intending not only to replace the bolts that hold the retainers to the vehicle, but also replace the bolts and nuts that hold the sway bar links on. However, the factory sway bar link bolts have this extra thick shoulder on them when they go through the bushing of the sway bar link, and you can't just buy them like this at Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever you do your shopping. So I'm reusing these stock bolts, and the only thing I'm going to replace is the M10 by 1.5 nuts. May as well put new nuts on them, but everything else is going to be what came from the factory, because they have a pretty specific purpose to fit snugly into these bushings, and you don't want to mess that up. So we'll get this all put together and start putting it back in the vehicle. By design, these bolts are a pretty snug fit when they go through these bushings, so do yourself a favor, put a little bit of grease on them, and don't forget that the bolts face opposite directions. So I think the easier way to do this, not that it's completely easy, split this open with your screwdriver and slide it down over top of the flat here, and then push it down around. And just twist it around. And there you go. All right, bushings are on. Let's get back under the Jeep. Okay guys, well, I know it's pretty boring to watch people just spin ratchets, and that's all I've been doing. It's just 4 bolts and nuts on one side, 4 on the other side. Put them all back in. It's a really straightforward install, and then you just torque it down to 54 foot-pounds. Every bolt and nut gets 54 foot-pounds, and that is it. So that'll be a wrap on this video of how to remove and replace your rear sway bar on at least a 1997 Jeep TJ. And just one step closer to being able to take those spring spacers out, put in some new springs, some new shocks, and the control arms and control arm bushings are going to go as well. All that is future work. But hey, that drive shaft looks really pretty, and it's been working great. So it's nice to see the underside of TDSR coming together, looking a little bit newer, a little bit smoother. And again, if you like the video, if it's helpful, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you want to keep following along, and notification bell if you want to know the next time I upload.
Either way, thanks for watching this far. Hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.